Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. Certainly, the United States is one of the foremost global powers, if not the greatest. But have you ever stopped to consider its origins and history? In this video, we will explore the history of the United States through the lens of its biblical roots, a topic often overlooked on YouTube. In celebration of Independence Day, we've decided to share this video so you can understand the biblical origins of this country. This is another episode in our series investigating the origins of peoples according to Genesis chapter 10, the origin of peoples according to the Bible. The United States, also known as the United States of America, is a country located primarily in North America and comprising a federation of 50 states, along with the Federal Capital District, Washington, D.C., and 326 Native American reservations. Beyond this union of states, the country asserts sovereignty over 5 major unincorporated island territories and several uninhabited islands. The United States boasts the third-largest land area in the world, the second-largest exclusive economic zone, and the third-largest population, with over 334 million inhabitants. Paleo-indigenous peoples migrated from Siberia and Asia millennia ago via the Bering Land Bridge, forming diverse civilizations and societies. Paleo-indigenous refers to the earliest known human groups to inhabit a region before the arrival of other peoples or significant influences. The term can vary depending on the geographical region in question. In the context of the Americas, for example, Paleo-indigenous would refer to peoples who migrated to the continent during the Ice Ages thousands of years ago, giving rise to the various indigenous cultures we encounter today. These groups had varied lifestyles depending on environmental conditions and available resources in their regions. They developed advanced techniques for hunting, fishing, plant gathering, and constructing shelters adapted to their environments. British colonization began with the first settlement of the 13 colonies in Virginia in 1607. Clashes with the British Crown over taxes and political representation sparked the American Revolution, culminating in the Second Continental Congress formally declaring independence on July 4, 1776. Following victory in the Revolutionary War from 1775 to 1783, the United States continued to expand across North America with the admission of new states. Sectional division over slavery led to the secession of the Confederate States of America, who fought against the remaining Union states during the American Civil War from 1861 to 1865. With the Union's victory and preservation, slavery was abolished nationwide. By 1890, the United States had already established itself as a major power. Following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, the United States entered World War II. The consequences of the war left the United States and the Soviet Union as the two global superpowers, leading to the Cold War, during which both countries engaged in a struggle for ideological dominance and international influence. With the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War in 1991, the United States emerged as the sole global superpower. Turning now to the colonization of the United States by Europeans, primarily the English, it is interesting to note that it was actually the Spanish who first arrived in North American territory in 1492. However, the colonizers of the United States were English, not Spanish. Christopher Columbus began exploring the Caribbean for Spain in 1492, leading to Spanish-language settlements and missions from Puerto Rico and Florida to New Mexico and California. France established its own settlements along the Mississippi River and the Gulf of Mexico. British colonization of the East Coast began with the Virginia colony in 1607 and the Plymouth colony in 1620. The Mayflower Compact and the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut set precedents for representative self-government and constitutionalism, which would develop throughout all the American colonies. While European settlers in what is now the United States lived in conflict with Native Americans, i.e., the indigenous peoples of that region, they also engaged in trade, exchanging European tools for food and animal furs. Relations varied between close cooperation and warfare, even massacres. Colonial authorities often implemented policies forcing Native Americans to adopt European lifestyles, including conversion to Christianity. The original 13 colonies, which later formed the United States, were governed by Britain and had local governments with open elections, though most voters were European landowners. The colonial population grew rapidly, outnumbering native populations. Regarding the biblical origins of European-descended North Americans, biblical texts assert that European peoples descend from the lineage of Japheth. Given that the United States of America is primarily of English and European descent, this diversity reflects the populations that settled there. We can understand that the United States has a predominantly Japhetic ancestry, especially through Ashkenaz, who is the ancestor of the Germanic peoples. Ashkenaz was the father of the ancient Scandinavians, who descended from Japheth through his lineage, being the son of Gomer and the grandson of Japheth, great-grandson of Noah. Long before people of English descent settled in North American territories, the continent was already inhabited by various indigenous tribes. These tribes were the first inhabitants of North America, migrating from the region now known as Siberia and Asia, crossing the Bering Land Bridge millennia ago. According to sacred texts of the Bible, these indigenous tribes are said to be descendants of Sin, son of Canaan, and also of Togarmah, son of Gomer and brother of Ashkenaz and Riphath. Togarmah is seen as an ancestor of Asian peoples, including the Chinese and other East Asian peoples, thus forming a blend of descendants of Japheth and Canaan. In other words, we understand that Native Americans are descendants of ancient Asians who came from Siberia, who were also Asians. Thus, they would be descendants of Sin, son of Canaan, and Togarmah, son of Gomer and grandson of Japheth. In addition to Europeans and the native peoples of what is now North America, other peoples were brought to this region due to slavery. Most African Americans trace their roots to Africans who were brought as slaves to the American colonies from the 17th century onwards. For centuries, Africans were forced to work on plantations in the southern United States, contributing to the country's agricultural economy. Slavery was officially abolished in the United States after the American Civil War in 1865, with the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. However, freedom did not bring immediate equality, and many African Americans faced discrimination and legalized segregation for decades. Peoples from Africa, especially those who arrived as slaves, also settled in North America and, interestingly, grew to become one of the large populations that inhabit the United States today. Biblically, Africans are descendants of the lineage of Ham, one of Noah's sons. They descend from Cush, son of Ham, who gave rise to Ethiopia, Sudan, and several other African countries. Cush is the ancestor of dark-skinned Africans, that is, black people. Besides European colonizers, who constituted the majority of the United States population, and in addition to Native Americans and Africans, there were also various immigrations to the region, such as Chinese immigration. The Chinese presence in the United States has a long and complex history. Starting mainly in the 19th century, many Chinese migrated to the U.S. in search of work, especially during the California Gold Rush and the construction of transcontinental railways. However, they faced widespread discrimination and violence, culminating in the passage of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which banned Chinese immigration to the U.S. for several decades. Despite these challenges, the Chinese community in the U.S. grew and established itself, especially in urban areas like San Francisco and New York. They made significant contributions to the American economy, particularly in agriculture, service, and manufacturing sectors. Throughout the 20th century, Chinese immigration gradually became more liberalized, and today Chinese Americans are an integral part of American society, contributing to diverse fields such as science, technology, business, arts, and politics. Regarding the etymology of the term United States, the first documented use of the phrase United States of America was in a letter dated January 2, 1776, written by Stephen Moylan, an aide-de-camp to General George Washington. He wrote to Joseph Reed, Washington's adjutant general, mentioning to go with full and ample powers from the United States of America to Spain to seek assistance in the Revolutionary War effort. The first known public use is an anonymous essay published in the Virginia Gazette on April 6, 1776. By June 1776, United States of America appeared in the Articles of Confederation and the Declaration of Independence. The Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776, using the term United States. While many languages are spoken in the United States, English is by far the most spoken and written. Regarding indigenous languages, there are a total of 169 Native American languages. I thank everyone who has watched the video up to this point. Please write in the comments what you thought of this video about the origins of the United States, from both historical and biblical perspectives. If you've made it this far, please leave a like, your comments, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share this video with those interested in learning more about peoples, countries, tribes, and much more. May God bless, and see you soon.